Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys win a big game, 33-13 over the Eagles. Both teams 10-3. The Cowboys now in control of the NFC East. They got the tiebreaker over the Eagles. So again, the Cowboys would, as of today, would be the number 2 seed. Eagles fall to the number 5 seed. Dallas got up early, and honestly, if Dak didn't have a fumble for a touchdown, this beatdown looks even worse.
Yeah. Real statement win from the Cowboys. And I think psychologically important for them. This was another road mark towards where they want to be, which is proving that they can actually win when it matters. I think that's way more important than any seeding implications or, division win or any of that stuff. I think the fact that they actually got a big win against a good team that they haven't been able to get over the hump against previously is huge. Like way more important than the fact that they might now get better seeding. They went out there, scored, on their opening drive, looked great, and then dominated both sides of the ball for the rest of the game. And you're right, it shouldn't have been as close as it was. Genuine statement win. And when you start putting it together with the Seattle game last time, right, where they faced a slightly better opponent than they'd been beating, and that was a tough game, and they got a win. Now you go up against a team that's supposed to be very good. You handle them easily at home. Like, it's about as impressive a win as they can get. They're another team that's in the midst of a nasty schedule to end the season, but huge game for them.
Yeah, Dallas has a run here as well. We could talk about that in a second. But yeah, the Cowboys, for the whole year, all we remembered, at least we remembered, they got waxed by the Niners in San Francisco, lost to the Eagles in Philadelphia, and everything around that, other than a weird game against Arizona, was the Cowboys just beating up on lesser teams. But now they beat up on the Eagles at home. Again, one of the few things I got right this year. I did feel at the time that these two teams are close, that they would split, that the Eagles would win in Philadelphia, Dallas would win in Dallas. But it's not just that now. Like, these teams are trending in different directions. Like, I don't know if I'm putting too much stock in this run that the Eagles have had, but they had to play Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, Niners, and then Dallas again. You don't get that often in the regular season because the Eagles are going to have an easy schedule from here on out, but you don't usually get that run of like 5 Super. I know the Bills are 7-6, but like 5 teams that if they were playing in the Super Bowl, you wouldn't be surprised. Like, those are week after week. I know there was a bye in the middle of that, but the Eagles played in a lot of tough games. But for Dallas, I'm with you, man. We talked about it in the preview, the psychological aspect of we could beat one of the best teams in the NFL. We could do it. Last year in Dallas, it was Gardner Minshew, not Jalen Hurts. So it's Hurts. And they beat the Eagles with their starters, pretty much, with Dallas Goedert coming back and the whole deal. Really impressive win by Dallas. It was a fun game, too. I mean, Chris was highlighting it a lot. When you have A.J. Brown and Stephon Gilmore going one-on-one, you have Micah Parsons and Lane Johnson. I mean, there's just amazing matchups on both sides of the ball in this game. It makes for a lot of fun. So much that Chris was like, I'm just happy to be here. Chris wasn't even going to announce or do anything. He was just going to watch. I was like, Chris, you gotta add some commentary here,
just
man.
Cheer.
Yeah. He was just happy to be there. No, he was just joking around, boss. But heavyweight battle, Cowboys and Eagles.
It really was. Yeah, there were some absolutely titanic one-on-one matchups. The Lane Johnson, Micah Parsons thing was fantastic to watch. It felt like Dallas started moving Stephon Gilmore. Like, Deron Bland had that game where he got absolutely lit up by DK Metcalf, the Seahawks. Basically undid his Defensive Player of the Year candidacy in one game. And it's almost like the Cowboys watched that game and decided, we don't want this guy one-on-one with A.J. Brown, and we're going to put Gilmore on him instead. And that was working. I mean, Gilmore gave up some plays, but was in an absolute battle with A.J. Brown throughout the course of the game. And then late on, when there was any vague hope of a Philadelphia comeback, Gilmore made plays like back-to-back downs, like 3rd and 11, I think, and 4th and 9. Gilmore made the play on both of them to stop it. I think it was Devontae Smith both times. But Gilmore had a great game, and I think that was probably smart, matching him up on A.J. Brown instead of Deron Bland.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Dan Quinn for Dallas deserves so much credit for what he's done the last couple of years defensively. Just playing to his, adjusting to his defense, playing to his players' strengths, Remember, he came from the Seattle cover 3, and a lot of those disciples, Gus Bradley in particular, and Bradley's a good defensive coach, but they run a lot of the same stuff, right? You play left corner, you play right corner, we play cover 3, seam, the whole deal. And Dan Quinn all of a sudden starts stunting more than ever. Obviously saw enough that Micah Parsons should not be called a linebacker anymore and should be an edge rusher. He adjusted there. He adjusted pretty quickly early in Micah Parsons' career to that. And even something like this. And they've also, as we've said many times, been incredible at forcing turnovers. It's a 3-year deal now for Dallas, the thing that usually regresses, and Dallas is incredible at it. That's the other story of this game. Dallas winning all of the critical downs, right? 9 of 16 on third down, but also forcing 3 turnovers. Jalen Hurts fumble as they were driving. Devontae Smith fumble. A.J. Brown fumble. Dallas recovers all of them. All of those are just massive plays for Dallas. So I think Dan Quinn somehow emphasizing turnovers and still, getting the message across to Dallas and still executing those, but also Quinn adjusting to his players. Outstanding work as defensive coordinator the last 3 years. And he'll be up for a head coaching job again, I think, because of the job he's done. Honestly, he could have been up for a head coaching job 2 years ago, and he kept sticking with it. And that's what I think, when you put that all together, makes Dallas dangerous, too, going forward, because the offense is cooking, and Dan Quinn, making a lot of good moves on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, they still have the best pass rush in the game. They are pairing it with good coverage. The thing that I think makes him stand out relative to a lot of those other Seattle cover 3 type of disciples is that one of the things that characterizes that defense is relative inflexibility. They don't change much. They don't adjust. They line up and say, this is what we do. We're better than you. We're going to out-execute you. Whereas what we're talking about is his defense is almost characterized by a willingness to adjust and change things and adapt and, alter what you want to do because it makes you better. Like, instead of putting Deron Bland one-on-one against A.J. Brown and knowing that he's going to get targeted 10 times a game, you put Gilmore on him and you say, Bland, you're going to get half the number of targets. You can be a little bit more risky. You can gamble a bit more and try and make a turnover against Devontae Smith instead. And, the stuff with Micah Parsons, all those kinds of things. Like, they have adapted this defense. I think it's why it's way more potent than it would be if they just stuck with what they were doing right away.
As some people have pointed out in the chat, and Chris as well. I mean, Dallas on turf with their speed, and when they lose, it's been grass games for whatever that's worth, the road games, and I do think Dallas is a different team at home. I mean, they're averaging, I just lost it, they're just under 40 points a game at home, 39.9. Number 1 in the league in scoring offense, or just points scored, because that includes all your pick sixes and all that, But that's why I think this is important too. It's I think both the psychological aspect of being able to beat one of the best teams in the league, but also playing at home, right? They still might have to go through San Francisco to get to the Super Bowl, but if they have to play Philly at home in the playoffs, I mean, they were favored in this game. We'll see what happens the next 4 weeks. They're favored again, right? I mean, Dallas, this year in particular, I know they've looked good in a lot of stretches the last 2 years, but they look like they're destined for the NFC Championship if they keep this up. But playing at home, I think, is going to be huge for the Cowboys if they have that opportunity. So that part of it, and the aspect of, hey, we beat a good team.
Yeah.
Because we haven't beaten the Niners or the Eagles with Jalen Hurts over the last couple of years. When the Eagles were playing at this level, when the Niners were playing at this level, this is the first one that maybe gets Dallas over the hump here. They still have to play Detroit. They have Buffalo this week. The schedule's more challenging than Philly down the stretch here, so it might not matter in the end as far as seeding goes. But I thought it was important, because unless Dallas screws up, they're going to see either Philly or San Francisco in the playoffs
at some point.
Some point. So I think this is a big one for them.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt they're going to want to play San Francisco just because nobody is. And, they might talk about it, trying to get that one back or whatever, but they don't want to play San Francisco. But this was, again, like, they are no longer, I think, going to have a psychological hang-up about playing Philadelphia if they meet them in the playoffs. They know they
even
can
in
beat
Philly.
them.
I mean, that game came down to red zone execution, right? They had a chance to win.
They know they can beat them, and they can take out a team that's healthy and playing with almost all their consequential players. They know they can beat them. Like, the 49ers might be a different proposition, but at least one of the best teams in the NFC they know they can take down.
The Eagles, they've been playing with fire for a while. Remember that there was that stretch where Jalen Hurts had won 5, 6, 7 straight games, whatever it was, when the Eagles were down 10 over the last 2 years. Well, they've been down 10 plus over the last 2 weeks and never made that comeback. So the Eagles being, the worst 10-win team with the worst point differential for 10-win teams through week 14, there were these underlying metrics that said maybe the Eagles' record is a little inflated. I really think they just look like they've run into so many good teams that they're spent here. But I think they'll bounce back. It'll still be a battle for the NFC East down the stretch here. But huge win for Dallas. And Eagles, I think some of their weaknesses came out too. Middle of their defense, and when their pass rush doesn't get home, don't think they're as clean on the back end as they've been in recent years. I also think Dak is just really good against Eagles-like defenses. I think that the same way the Niners matchup is bad for Dallas, I think offensively Dallas matches up well against the Eagles defense.
He made some incredible throws again. I mean,
Absolutely.
Dak Prescott is playing spectacularly. He might not win MVP.
He's the leader right now, man. I know Purdy's stats are insane, but people are leaning into Dak as MVP favorite right now. It'll be interesting when you get to this whole, they played each other head up and it was like night and day.
Right.
Purdy's best game versus Dak's worst game on Sunday Night Football. But Dak is in the mix for sure for MVP right now.
Mm-hmm.